this is Deanna here today, and today I am going to be working on gathering, how to gather and different methods of gathering. But before I get started, let me remind you about our Fun Fan giveaway of $50 Ellie and Meg gift certificate. And all you have to do to enter is to subscribe to our channel and comment below, and you will be entered for a giveaway. So I'm gonna show you 4 different ways that you can gather. I've got my elastic, gathering with elastic, and I will be using clear elastic to show that one. I have gathering with your long basting stitch and with double long basting stitch. I've got some gathering with the serger and gathering method with floss or a thicker kind of thread. So I'm going to show you this 4 different ways. Please let me know if you have any questions. I hope you enjoy it. All right, so the first kind of gatherers I'm going to show you is gathering by elastic. And this is going to be the width that I want to gather my my piece of fabric. So let's pretend that this is my bodice and I want to gather my skirt, the width of this, or this is my sleeve and this is my ruffle, whatever you want to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my elastic. I'm using clear elastic. I'm going to overlap it a little bit at the end, so I have a piece to hold on to when I'm holding it on to sew it on. And I'm going to go all the way down to the end. I'm going to go ahead and mark it where I want to start and where I want to end. This is where I want my fabric. Okay. Now, because this is a longer piece, what I want to do is, and I'm going to stretch it out together. What I want to do is I want to mark that center piece. That way I only have to stretch to the center and then to the center again, if you see that. So I'm going to match up where those 2 ones I marked are, and I'm going to go to the center, and that's where I'm going to mark again. Okay, I'm going to make another mark right there at the center, just so I can know where my center is. And it'll make it easier when I'm gathering. Okay, so there's my center of my fabric. And I'm going to do the same for my piece that I'm going to gather. I'm going to fold it and I'm going to mark my center. And how I like to mark my center is, should probably have my scissors with me, is I want to mark it by notching it so I can see it right there. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and pin that center on already. And then pin that back. And pin the front, those red marks. Then I'm going to go over to my sewing machine and I'm going to be pulling it as I sew it on. All right, I am at my sewing machine. I'm going to place my elastic on there and I'm going to put my needle down. I'm going to grab it at this pin right here, that first middle pin, and the top where I have that elastic hanging at the back, and I'm going to even it out. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and start sewing right over that elastic till I get to that one middle piece, and then I'm going to go to the next section and pull my elastic tight as I need it to, so that it gets to, the red gets to where it's supposed to be, and then I'm going to go ahead and sew again. I will cut my elastic and I have perfect gathers. You can also, I just went with a straight stitch, but you can also go with a zigzag stitch to catch more of the elastic. But what I'll do is either I'll encase that elastic, or I will go with my little scissors and trim some of that elastic to take away any of the bulk. All right, now I'm going to show you how I like to gather, how I do most of my gathering. Most of my gathering is done with just a long stitch, a basting stitch. This basting stitch is set at a 6. The length is a 6, the width is a 0. And I just go on my machine and I put my needle down. And I'm going to go ahead and grab my thread a little bit at the top to give it a little bit tension of to my thread. And I go. I do not clip my thread until I pull it all the way out, and then I cut it with a little bit of a tail. By holding the tension on the sewing machine, it gathers it a little bit, but then I'm going to go ahead and go to the back and grab my bobbin thread and pull it to my desired width. Now that I gathered it, I'm pulling that bobbin thread to my desired width, being my piece that I have over here already. And I like to go from one side and go halfway one side, and then go to my other side and go the other way. And that gives me pretty good gathers as well. The only thing about this kind of gathering is that if you're doing a long piece, sometimes when you're pulling at your thread, it might break on you. And if it does, then you don't have any insurance and it can come unraveled. So I'm going to show you how sometimes what I do is I put 2 rows of stitches so I can have a better gather. If I am doing something that it's a longer piece of fabric for gathering, I will go ahead and do my first line with a long straight stitch. This is my first line of gathering, about 1/4 of an inch down from the top. And then I'll do my second line of gathering right below it. So now I've got 2 rows of gathering stitches. Now that I have 2 rows of gathering stitches, I'm going to grab my bobbin threads of both of them, and I'm going to pull and gather. Now, doing so gives it a better gathering look. It's easier if one of them were to break, then the other one's still there. And also it helps the gather stay straight as you're gathering them, which later might help you when you're sewing them on. So you have the gathers are standing straighter up because there's a wider area that's holding them down, kind of telling them what to do. Again, I like to go from both sides. I think it just makes it a easier way to gather. There is my gather. My next method of gathering is the serger method. Now, I don't do anything different with my sewing machine, with my serger. I'm just going to serge that raw edge of my fabric. Once that is serged, and I have two tails, one at the end, one at the front. I'm gonna tie the tail at the end so it doesn't come undone when I'm pulling my threads out. Hopefully you can tie better than I can. And now I'm gonna show you how you gather. Now that I have that serge edge, I'm gonna go to the end that is not tied, and I'm going to find my needles. Sorry, I've got the red marker got all over me. So I'm gonna find my needle thread, which is right here at the middle of the serge stitch. If you can see it, it runs right along, is it focusing? It runs right along that middle part right there. So I'm pulling that middle stitch out. That's just this, that's the thread, not the loopers, just the thread. Now there's two of them. There's one right below it as well. And you can pull that one, or you can just go ahead and do it with one. And you're gonna grab it and you're going to pull on it and slide your fabric and gather. How easy is that? You thought this was gonna be hard, didn't you? You thought I was gonna do some crazy thing, didn't you? It's not, nothing crazy. Make sure that you have this tied off at the end, because if you keep going, what's gonna happen is your whole serger edge is gonna come unraveled. You just took your serger off. That is another great way to, if you serge something together and you serged it wrong and you wanna take that serger part off, all you do is you pull those two threads all the way through and it comes apart so easily. There's my gather. Gathered to the width of my bodice. And then what I will do is at the end, once I'm getting ready to sew it, I will tie my strings over here so that way it stays together. The next one I'm gonna show you, the next form of gathering is going to be my floss or a thicker thread form of gathering. I'm going to put my machine on a zigzag stitch. I've got it on a 2 and on a length, 2 for length and 4 for width. I'm gonna grab my fabric and I'm gonna put it right under my foot with my floss hanging off the back so I can hold on to it if I need to. Now, my fabric can be a little bit temperamental, so I like to put a pin at the end, like so, just in case I need to help my fabric along a little bit at the beginning. So I'm gonna put it right there. I'm gonna put my floss, and I am going to start my stitch and make sure my floss is between the two, and I'm going. Whoop, there went my floss. All the way down. Okay. Now my floss is between my zigzag stitch. Here's my bodice. Here's my zigzag stitch floss. I'm gonna grab my floss and I'm gonna slide my fabric right on my floss. No matter what method of gathering you're doing, remember to always make sure that this beginning is caught into something. I drove my needle through the middle of the floss at the beginning first to try to keep it tight right there so it doesn't come off when I'm trying to gather. Oop, I went a little overboard with my gathers. This is my gathering. It's done. Once I sew it on, then I can just pull it right off. Once you're sewing it on, make sure that you tie the gathers at the end as well so it doesn't come apart when you're sewing it on. I hope this tutorial was helpful to you. And I hope you have gotten a little bit of insight between the different types of gather. Double, long stitch gather, elastic gathers, serger gathers, and the floss gathers. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please let me know if you have any questions about anything that I did. Please come join us on our Facebook or Instagram for Ellie and Mac. And comment, like, share, subscribe to our channel so you can see many more tutorials coming up. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.